This is the whole idea of traditional managed care. It's a third party controlling it as opposed to consumerism where the member controls. Now, this is a good point for me to jump in here. Oh, by the way, there may be a few questions on this chart. Because it's pretty basic, right? I mean, you understand the difference between traditional managed care and HMOs and how healthcare consumerism differs. And we know that supply controls have been failing, so now we're trying these demand controls. Here are the megatrends, and again, this is another important slide. If you don't believe that these are the megatrends, then you're probably going to waste your time with this and all the materials we're going to be talking about. I don't know how many people read the book years ago. Naismith put out a book called Megatrends, and sort of this is a takeoff of that. That in our own lives and every other place, we're taking more personal responsibility. We're buying and selling stuff on eBay. Cyber Monday was bigger than Black Friday. We use ATMs. We buy and sell stocks on the internet. We keep our music on the internet. We keep our connections on photos and everything on Facebook or other sources. Self-help and self-care has been growing. The desire for individual ownership. Portability, I really want to be able to take my coverages from job to job, and a lot of people were in job lock, which is one of the reasons why the Affordable Care Act was really pushed strongly. Transparency, or the alternative preferred, the right to know. And then consumerism is all about empowerment. Now, let me make it clear. The Institute for Healthcare Consumerism used to be called Consumer-Driven Healthcare Conferences, Consumer-Driven Healthcare Solutions. And Doug Field, who's the founder, head of all this stuff, he and I talked a number of years ago, and I said, you're on the right track, but I think where we're moving is beyond that. That consumer-driven healthcare is a subset, in my mind, of healthcare consumerism. Consumer-driven healthcare is about a plan design, high deductibles with accounts, and they're great and wonderful, and I'm going to give you... But the healthcare consumerism is this broader picture of how do you engage people financially and with information, and you don't have to do it with accounts. We love HSA accounts. We see them continuing to grow. We thought they might die under the Affordable Care Act, and in fact, as many things government does, the opposite occurs. We think that now HSAs are going to be one of the biggest sellers of all the options because it winds up being the product that's available in the lowest band. So just a quick example. Instead of doing rewards and incentives into a health savings account or adding to a health reimbursement arrangement, how many people have seen those property and casualty auto advertisements with the guy with the rocks over their head that's shrinking? All right. You could do that as a reward incentive. You can change the cost sharing, change the deductible. It's a way to reward and incentivize people just as well. A real popular approach these days is to change the employee contribution rate. So that if you meet certain biometrics, and the biometrics have become very popular these days, blood pressure, cholesterol, nicotine use, body mass index, waist size, A1C, those are 6. A lot of times they pick 4 of the 6. And if you meet those standards, I mean, as a physician, they're not too controversial. We know what blood pressure levels ought to be, right? I mean, I found maybe 1 in 100 physicians says, oh, no. I do find some disagreements whether we should just use one physician. So we only need waist size. That's all we need. Having one metric doesn't make a lot of common sense to me. So we need multiple. But we know what blood pressures ought to be. We know what cholesterol levels ought to be. We know what A1C levels ought to be, body mass index, all those things. So those are the things being used to reward and incentivize in various ways. And so however you engage people financially with an account or with other ways, and you reward and incentivize them through various mechanisms, biometrics is one of the keys these days, then you've really got the basis of healthcare consumerism, whether or not it's an account-based plan. So, I like to say, here's a definition of healthcare consumerism. And this is one I really like because I wrote it. Healthcare consumerism is about transforming an employer's health benefit plan into one that puts economic purchasing power and decision-making in the hands of participants. It's about supplying the information and decision support tools they need, along with financial incentives, rewards, and other benefits that encourage personal involvement in altering health and health care purchasing behaviors. Important words in there, health and healthcare, not just healthcare. It's also important, you see nothing in there about plan design. You see nothing in there about accounts, because it's broader than that. But you see the two big areas I mentioned earlier, financial involvement and information.